Y News with Angelo Castro III, William Theo, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA contradicts the Bureau of Customs or BOC in terms of the amount of shabu shipment intercepted in Valenzuela City. PDEA is now preparing the charges it plans to file against the involved officials of the BOC in the said controversy. Monokson tells us why.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency or PDEA will file charges against former and incumbent officials of the Bureau of Customs or BOC for allegedly violating the Section 4 of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. The charges, PDEA says, stemmed from the illegal importation of more than 600 kilograms of shabu the BOC failed to intercept. On the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon, NCR PDEA Director Wilkins Villanueva says they will file charges against the personalities involved in the entry of illegal drugs. This include former Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faeldon and former Intelligence and Investigation Service Director Neil Anthony Estrella.
The moment na nakapagbukas sila ng isang crate na drugs na yun, dapat stop ka na. Tumawag ka na ng PDEA kasi drugs na yan. Huwag mo pag-i-validate yung ibang laman ng crate kasi may drugs ka na dito.
Former Intelligence and Investigation Service Director Neil Anthony Estrella, on the other hand, says he is ready to face the charges to be filed against him. Estrella stands firm that he has no involvement in illegal drug trade and wonders why a partner agency against illegal drugs are targeting them instead of going after those responsible for bringing illegal drugs in the country. Former Customs Commissioner Nicanor Faeldon has yet to respond to the filing of charges against him. Meanwhile, the amount of 600 kilograms of shabu intercepted in Valenzuela is not more than 6 billion pesos. Villanueva says the illegal drugs were only worth 3.05 billion pesos, based on their computation of 5 million pesos per kilogram. The NCR PDEA director claims the BOC has just jacked up the amount. Villanueva further notes that the percentage of those who stopped using illegal drugs has not even reached 1% of more than 1 million individuals who surrendered under the anti-drugs campaign of the government. He says the facilities built to rehabilitate those who surrendered are not effective. Villanueva says PDEA was also able to observe that there had been no changes in the prices of illegal drugs. This means, Villanueva notes, many are using illicit drugs despite the continuous operations against it.
Kasi pag kumonti yung gagamit, bababa ang presyo. Kasi kung konti lang yung gagamit, magiging ordinaryo na eh. Pero habang dumadami yung gumagamit, tataas ng tataas yan.
Pero
supply and demand eh.
Villanueva also explained that the previous administration did not prioritize the country's problem on illegal drugs.
Kailan lang nagkaroon sa zona na droga? Wala eh. It's on, as far as I can remember, nasabi yun ni former President Gloria Arroyo sometime in 2003 na paabutin natin ang kampanya kontra droga hanggang sa umabot sa barangay. That's only once before kay Presidente Duterte. Imagine, for so many years, wala sa zona ang droga eh.
Among PDEA's suggestions is for the government to also focus on making effective its rehabilitation of surrenderies under the anti-illegal drugs campaign. The agency says campaign would become successful if those who surrendered will be fully rehabilitated. Mon Hokson, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
PDEA NCR Director Wilkins Villanueva has criticized the Bureau of Customs or BOC during previous Senate hearings over the agency's alleged failures that led to the smuggling of billions of peso worth of shabu into the country. And after hurling harsh words against several customs officials, Villanueva's capabilities will now be tested once he enters the Bureau. Jun Soriao tells us why.
Brave and have a strong sense of commitment. Such is the character of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency National Capital Region or PDEA NCR Director Wilkins Villanueva. During the Senate's inquiry on the illegal shipment of shabu in the country, Villanueva was relentless.
Ito sir, kasi ang problema, pag anti-drug operation, makinig kayo sa PDEA. Ang problema, nagmamagaling-magalingan tayo dito. Wala naman pala tayong alam.
The PDEA director even posted a message on his Facebook account that seems to lecture erring Bureau of Customs or BOC officials. And during his interview on the program Get It Straight with Daniel Razon earlier, he has this to say.
Nakalimutan ko na eh.
Parang may dementia ka na ba? Paano mo tinanggihan?
Nakalimutan ko na eh.
Pagka nasa Senate, tapang-tapang nito.
Kaya sabi ko, mas kabado ako dito. Mas kabado ako dito.
Tapang-tapang talaga pagka...
Dito wala.
Get it straight, straight.
PDEA NCR Director Villanueva says many reforms are needed to be done in the BOC to totally prevent illegal drug shipments. He cited as an example the deployment of PDEA personnel to customs offices.
Makakapasok lang kami sa customs area ng seaport pag may invitation kami.
But there seems to be some changes. The agency he previously criticized would soon become his new office once his replacement of Director Neil Anthony Estrella of the Intelligence and Investigation Service pushes through. However, some were skeptical of this move.
So lilipat ka na nga sa customs.
Yeah.
So from PDEA, aalis ka na ng PDEA, lilipat ka na sa customs.
Yes.
Hindi ba kaya tiniran nyo yung mga taga-customs dahil gusto nyo kayo nasa customs? Hindi ba parang gano'n? Kasi lipat si Lapeña, ikaw lipat ka, parang pinagplanuhan nyo Hindi naman.
Yun nga ang conclusion na iniiwasan namin.
Director Villanueva meanwhile says he learned a lot during his attendance to the Senate's hearing on the illegal drug shipment, although it affected his duties.
But ang kagandahan naman doon, para akong nagkaroon ng Customs 101,
nalaman mo yung
yung system.
procedure.
Director Villanueva says he would focus on counterintelligence once he assumes the vacant post in customs. He notes he depends on the fact that new Customs Commissioner Lapeña is a straight and troubleshooter. And just like those interviewed by Kuya Daniel,
Walang amount of pressure na pwedeng magpa-resign sa'yo.
Yes.
So, kung ikaw ngayon, ganun din, kagaya ng mga tinanong ko noong nakaraan, pagka nadinig ko sa balita na nag-resign si Director Wilkins Villanueva sa Bureau of Customs, hindi totoo yun. Press release lang yun. At ang totoo, pinag-resign ka or tinanggal ka.
Tinanggal ako. Tinanggal ako.
Jun Suriao, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Bureau of Customs Commissioner Isidro Lapeña has issued Memorandum Order number 142017 directing the abolition of the BOC Command Center. The new Customs Chief is confident it will not affect the normal operations inside the BOC. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Newly installed Customs Chief Isidro Lapeña has formally abolished the Customs Command Center or COMCEN, which was originally created to monitor BOC transactions with cargoes coming in and going out of the country. Just on his fourth day in his post, Lapeña has seen the inadequacy of the agency in acting on suspicious or questionable cargoes. An example of this is the information they received regarding a port in Cagayan de Oro that should be issued an alert order to.
The one who issued is supposed to supervise that. Kailangan makita. Walang katao na mapapadala ang command center sa Cagayan de Oro. So that's the problem. Kaya hindi maka-issue ng alert order for Cagayan de Oro. So immediately I acted on it. How about if main information will come in other areas?
As a system in the command center, the Office of the Commissioner solely issues the alert order. However, Lapeña says he will assign such responsibility back to the Deputy Commissioner on Intelligence and Enforcement Group and the district collectors nationwide. He says this is one way of showing these employees his trust in them. Meanwhile, Lapeña names the people he brought to the BOC who will help him in reforming the agency. Among them is Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency National Capital Region Director Wilkins Villanueva.
Well, for now, I have General Quinto, my Deputy Director General for Operations, and Director Gladys Rosales. just 2 for now. I have requested them, I have made a request to the Office of the President for their assignment dito as deputy commissioners. That's vacant right now. Colonel Estrella tendered his resignation, and then I intend Director Wilkins Villanueva to take his post.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Meanwhile, Davao City Councilor Nilo Small Abellera dares Senator Antonio Trillanes IV to provide strong evidences against him of his alleged involvement in the anomalies inside the Bureau of Customs. Joanne Nano will tell us why.
Davao City Councilor Nilo Small Abellera has once again insisted that he has no involvement in the alleged anomalies in the Bureau of Customs or BOC. Abellera says he wonders why customs broker Mark Taguba is implicating him on the issue when in fact he never know him personally.
Wala ko'y kamiting Taguba because ang akong naka-istorya lagi sama-sama isot ikatong si Jack. Hindi man ko na ako ma-explain dito sa Senate kayo, pero normal man gud sa usa ka politician sa pareha namo nga makamit mig mga tawo.
The councilor says the people should not believe Taguba's pronouncements because of his conflicting statements.
Review ng iyang mga ginasulti. Ang una niyang gisulti was gitunol daw niya sa akua. Tapos karon katong nag-atubang mi gisulti na niya gidala daw niya sa sakyanan nako.
Thus, Abellera challenges Senator Antonio Trillanes IV to release evidence providing his involvement in the issue.
Palagi ko kaya hearsay lang because he cannot present any. Kasi kung meron siyang ebidensya, then pinresent na niya noon pa.
Abellera is now discussing with his lawyers if he can file charges against those who accuse him in order to clear his name. Councilor Abellera also assures that he is ready to face another Senate hearing on the alleged corruption in the BOC. The Davao City Councilor says he is now waiting for the formal invitation of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
In other news, House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez confirms having sufficient number of signatures for the impeachment complaint against Supreme Court Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno to push through in the lower house. However, Alvarez admits he deferred the endorsement. Grace Casin tells us why.
House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez says the Congress can now endorse the impeachment complaints against the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Alvarez notes 200 congressmen have already expressed the willingness to endorse the complaint, but that he only hindered it. According to lawmaker, the House leadership wants the complaints undergo scrutiny to ensure it has merit and sufficient evidence before bringing it to the Senate that serves as impeachment court.
Pagka pumirma sila lahat dyan, at nakuha natin yung minimum number of congressmen, aakyat na kaagad dyan sa impeachment court. So paano kami? We will be forced to prosecute na wala pa kaming hawak na matibay na ebidensya. Ayoko naman magmukha kaming tanga dun sa impeachment court.
Alvarez also confirms that the Congress will first discuss the impeachment complaint against Sereno before the impeachment rap against COMELEC Chairman Andres Bautista.
Matibay kasi may mga certified true copy in support of those allegations. Tapos what I've heard, may mga magti-testify din ng mga justices. Mabigat yun.
The House committee might simultaneously hear the impeachment complaints filed against the Supreme Court Chief Justice.
We will hear both. In the preparation of the articles of impeachment, assuming we will find the probable cause and after determination of sufficiency in form and substance, then we will consolidate and incorporate and file a single articles of impeachment.
Sereno is facing 2 impeachment complaints over her alleged misdeclaration of her real wealth in her Statement of Assets, Liabilities and Net Worth or SALN, and for the alleged questionable use of the funds of the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the Chief Justice is yet to release new comments regarding the complaints since these were formally filed before the House of Representatives. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Sandigan Bayan orders the arrest of former autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao or ARMM Governor Nur Miswari. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
Malacanang lets former ARMM Governor and Moro National Liberation Front founding chair Nur Miswari to defend himself over charges he is facing before the Sandigan Bayan Anti-Graft Court.
The onus at this point will have to be with Mr. Miswari. The onus of defending himself will be with Mr. Miswari.
This after the Sandigan Bayan 3rd Division orders the arrest of Miswari and others involved in the textbook scam. This is in connection with the 3 counts of graft and malversation they face because of the deal. They are accused of misusing DepEd ARMM funds and falsification of public documents to make it appear that there is procurement of educational materials made worth 115.2 million pesos from year 2000 to 2001. Based on reports, there's no procurement made because there was no delivery. The Pasig Regional Trial Court has allowed the suspension of the proceedings and arrest order against Miswari in relation to the rebellion cases he faces because of the Zamboanga siege. This is for him to participate in the peace talks with the Philippine government. Malacanang cannot particularly say if the arrest order of Sandigan Bayan will affect the peace negotiations of the MNLF with the government.
I cannot categorically say it will not have any effect, but at this stage, it would be best if he addressed the matter directly himself.
Meanwhile, President Duterte gave assurance to the Moro Islamic Liberation Front that the proposed Bangsamoro Basic Law is still a priority bill of his administration. The president met with the MILF officials last night and mentioned his plan to meet with the House and Senate leaders about BBL. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Department of Agrarian Reform Secretary Rafael Mariano faces anew some groups who oppose the confirmation of his appointment. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
Several groups opposing the confirmation of DAR Secretary Rafael Mariano trooped to the Commission on Appointments today. In the confirmation hearing, the group accused Mariano of favoring some groups to be beneficiaries of the Hacienda Luisita land distribution.
Nagkaroon po ng conflict of interest yung kalagayan ng mga manggagawang bukid sa Hacienda Luisita. Meron po siyang pinoproteksyonan at pinapaboran lamang po.
However, Secretary Mariano says the agency is just following the order of the Supreme Court in auditing the distribution of the said property.
Out of more than 5,000 po na farm worker beneficiaries na nagpa-interview, na-interview at na-validate ay ang tumanbad pong katotohanan ay 47% po doon sa mga na-interview at sinabi ng validation ay wala po doon sa actual possession.
The Hernano Jeronimo group says Mariano's loyalty is questionable, alleging that the DAR official is a conspirator of the CPP-NPA-NDF group in the attack of some business establishments in Davao City in April this year. The DAR chief nevertheless denies the allegation. The Commission on Appointments, on the other hand, says they will resume the confirmation hearing tomorrow. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Philippine government will receive 700 million pesos financial assistance from the United States. Meanwhile, the provincial government of Lanao del Sur has conducted another mass burial in connection to the Marawi siege. Ray Pelayo tells us why.
The United States donates a total of 740 million pesos in financial aid for Marawi City. U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, Sung Kim, says 153 million pesos of the said amount will be used as humanitarian assistance to the residents who fled.
The United States is deeply committed to this partnership and remains ready to support our friend and ally as we face the challenges and opportunities ahead. We all look forward to the end of the crisis and the end of the fighting and suffering. We have been and will continue to support the Philippines government's efforts to deal with the crisis.
The United States has also sent its condolences to the families left behind by the soldiers, police, and civilians who died in the battle. Ambassador Kim also assures that the U.S. will continue supporting the armed forces of the Philippines in its fight against terrorism. Meanwhile, 28 remains of civilians and several suspected terrorists were laid to rest in Marawi City this morning amid the ongoing crisis in the area. Based on the estimates of the Lanao del Sur Provincial Crisis Management Committee or PCMC, 88 dead bodies were buried in mass graves since June of this year. Saripada Pacasum of the Lanao del Sur PCMC says many are still searching for their missing loved ones but are afraid to identify the bodies.
Yung iba siguro takot na ma-identify na kamag-anak nila yung ano. Parang yung yesterday, in-insist ko, sabi ko mag-ano kayo. Ayaw nila.
More than 800 individuals have been killed in the war in Marawi City since it began in the 23rd of May. Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
Next on Y News. Senator Antonio Trillanes IV also plans to file ethics complaint against Senator Richard Gordon.
The United States donates 740 million pesos financial aid for Marawi City's relief and recovery efforts.
Warning signal number 1 raised over Batanes and northern Cagayan as tropical cyclone Kiko lashes northern Luzon.
Y News will be right back.
Senator Antonio Trillanes IV plans to also file an ethics complaint against Senator Richard Gordon. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
The privileged speech of Senator Antonio Trillanes IV early this afternoon centered on the ethics complaint filed by Senator Richard Gordon. Trillanes says in the history of the Senate, during hearings and speeches, there are similar instances where the Senate did not act seriously on the matter.
I was also once called a mosquito by the late Senator Joker Arroyo. Lastly, we clearly remember how the late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago called a lot of senators or resource persons fungus face or imbeciles. Yet nobody dared to call her out. Ngayon, lawyering at committee de absuelto lang na si Senator Gordon lang ang na-offend, ipapa-expel, ipapa-suspend, or even ire-reprimand ako? Parang hindi naman yata tama yun.
The senator adds that he also plans to file an ethics complaint against Senator Gordon.
At the appropriate time, I'd be filing my own ethics case against Senator Gordon for his unparliamentary and unethical acts as senator and chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee. I will also expose his corrupt acts as chairman of the Philippine Red Cross.
Senator Gordon, meanwhile, is ready to face the said allegation of corruption.
I would like to request the Senate to extract the words out, to expunge the words Philippine Red Cross. He can accuse me of corruption. That is his privilege. But do not drag the Red Cross.
Before ending his privileged speech, Trillanes stepped down as a member of the Ethics Committee to give way to the investigation on the case filed against him. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Relatives and friends of former UP student Carl Arnaiz call for justice now that his remains are finally laid to rest. Roger Adora will tell us why.
The remains of Carl Angelo Arnaiz were finally laid to rest at 3 in the afternoon today at Aliw Cemetery in Pateros. His relatives and friends strongly condemns his death in the hands of policemen who allegedly tortured and killed him. His family requested for privacy at this time of bereavement. But according to Carl's grandmother, she is not convinced of the findings that her grandson was positive of gunpowder.
Hindi pa ako naniniwala, ma'am. Kasi hindi pa yan nakakahawak ng baril at siguro baril-barila na hahawakan niya. Pero yung totoong baril hindi po, ma'am. Kaya hindi po totoo yun.
Based on police report, it was on August 18 when Arnaiz allegedly held up a taxi driver in Caloocan City. Arnaiz was allegedly killed when he resisted arrest. But according to the public attorney's office, it was on August 17 when Arnaiz left home. 10 days after, his dead body was found already inside a funeral parlor. Arnaiz sustained 5 gunshot wounds in his body which, according to PAO, showed indications of torture. Coinciding with the funeral, members of Anakbayan staged a protest to call for justice for Carl's death. They claim Carl is just one of the victims of extrajudicial killings in the country, and so they urge to stop the war on drugs.
As of the moment po, under Oplan Tokhang, humigit kumulang 13,000 na nabuhay yung nakitil at kalakhan po sa kanila ay walang sapat na batayan. Bakit sila kinakailangan patayin?
Meanwhile, Malacanang assures no whitewashing will happen in the case of Arnaiz. The government adds that it will definitely hold liable all persons involved in the crime.
We assure the public that there will be no whitewash and that there will be a thorough and impartial investigation, and those who will be found responsible will be made accountable before our laws.
Rogel Adora, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Department of Justice places the parents of Carl Angelo Arnaiz under the Witness Protection Program. The 19-year-old UP student was allegedly killed by Caloocan Police on August 18. Justice Undersecretary Erickson Balmes confirms that Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre ordered to place Carlito and Eva Arnaiz under the provisional coverage of the WPP. The NBI, on the other hand, is now conducting an investigation on the killing of the victim who purportedly engaged with the responding police officers after allegedly holding up a taxi along C3 Road in Caloocan City.
Meanwhile, during a Senate inquiry today, one of the witnesses confirmed the identities of 2 Caloocan cops who allegedly dragged and killed the 17-year-old Kian de los Santos. Meanwhile, PNP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa belies allegations that the Duterte administration has a policy to kill individuals involved in illegal drugs. Nel Maribuhok explains why.
During today's Senate hearing on the controversial death of Kian de los Santos, 31-year-old MC, not the witness' real name, pointed at the 2 of the 4 present Caloocan policemen as those who dragged and killed the teenager on the night of the August 16. These cops are PO3 Arnelo Juarez and PO1 Police Remias Pereda, who are assigned in Caloocan City. The witness claims PO3 Juarez shot the gun that killed de los Santos.
Ano po, tinulak po si Kian sa gilid ng baboyan po. Tapos naririnig ko po si Kian na, "Sir, wag po sir." Tapos yun, nagpaputok na yung isa. Tapos yung isa. Siyempre po, hindi ko na po nakita kung saan parting katawan din naman si Kian kasi po madilim po dun eh.
The 4 policemen refused to answer questions and invoked their rights to self-incrimination. The Senate inquiry also tackled the killing of 19-year-old Carl Arnaiz. According to the police who conducted autopsy on the teenager's remains, Arnaiz would have no chance to resist arrest based on the injuries he sustained.
Based on the body of the victim, there were multiple gunshot wounds and there were other injuries noted. So it means that the victim wasn't able to fight back that easily.
Afterwards, Senator Risa Ontiveros asked PNP Chief General Ronald Bato de la Rosa about the Duterte administration's policy on its war on drugs. The chief of the Philippine National Police became emotional while explaining his side.
Tapos, i-accuse yung kami ng palisiyan na gano'n. Masakit. Masakit. Magpakamatay kami para sa inosente tao. Hindi. Pakahirap naman sabihin yun na palisi na malawakang pagpatay. I am not si PNP. Nandyan yung Lord. Nandyan si Lord. Nakikita, alam niya. I am willing to go back to Davao. Go home. Pag maprobo yan, Your Honor.
Even the chief of the Public Attorney's Office also opposed the statement of the lady senator.
Wala akong sinabing patay na mayroong utos na pumatay ng walang awa. Wala akong ganon. Kaya kami nandito para bigyan ng due process ang mga pulis.
Committee Chairman Senator Panfilo Lacson says he believes the statement of De La Rosa.
And for him to tell na talagang alam ng Diyos, mamatay na ako dito, wala akong utos sa kanila na pagpapapatay yung mga drug pushers. Ako, I'm more inclined to believe.
On the issue involving rookie cops, De La Rosa has asked the senators to let the PNP itself train those who seek to become policemen. It remains unclear if the Senate will conduct another hearing on the death of De Los Santos But senators say they might resume the investigation this time on the killing of former UP student Carl Arnaiz. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
Dangerous Drugs Board Chair Dionisio Santiago says illegal drug operations in Metro Manila remain a serious problem. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
It has been a year since the anti-drug war of the Duterte administration has been implemented, and based on the report of the Dangerous Drugs Boards, there is a 271% increase in the number of kilograms of shabu seized in 2016. From July 2016 to August 29, 2017, more than 70,000 anti-illegal drug operations were conducted by government law enforcers. More than 107,000 drug personalities were arrested, while 3,800 plus were killed. But in spite of this, DDB Chairman Santiago says the illegal drug operations in Metro Manila remain serious.
Sa population base pa lang, makikita mo highly urbanized, ang size ay malaki. So automatic ang marginalized community malaki. Doon pinakamalaki makukuha mong may drug problem.
Santiago did not mention where the supply of drugs is coming from or who is the drug lord involved in the drug operations in Metro Manila. Though he does not deny that there is a big problem of drug smuggling in the country, the official belies that only the poor are the target of the anti-illegal drugs war of the Duterte administration. Santiago also warns that the incident of killings will increase not because of the anti-drug war, but because of the politics.
Lalo itong coming election, you watch for more killings. They will be politically motivated para ikakarga. Kasi sarap ba natin si Presidente EJK?
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
In other news, the lower house of Congress will still study the parameters that the Malacanang is seeking for the implementation of the plans on returning the Marcos wealth to the government. House Speaker Pantaleon Alvarez says the White House and the Malacanang have yet to confer on the said matter. He adds that it is imperative to check the sincerity of the Marcos family first before the Congress acts on it.
Tingnan muna natin, ano ba seryoso ba kayo o hindi? Baka mamaya, hindi naman seryoso yan. O ano ba yung gusto nyo isurrender? Di ba? Bago tayo magsayang ng oras dyan. Hindi ko pa alam kung anong gagawin namin. Pag-uusapan pa namin yan dito, yung proposal na ganyan. Ngayon lang kasi nangyari yan. So, mabuti na yun, tignan natin kung yung legalities. No?
And the Supreme Court has dismissed the plea of former Senator Bongbong Marcos to annul the proclamation of Vice President Leni Robredo. However, pilot recount in 3 provinces will still push through. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Supreme Court refused to grant the request of former Senator Bongbong Marcos to annul the proclamation of Vice President Leni Robredo. The SC sits as the Presidential Electoral Tribunal handling Marcos's election protest. Marcos is claiming Robredo's proclamation is void due to allegations of anomalies in the automated election system. The court, however, explains even if Marcos will be able to prove that the canvassing system was unreliable, it doesn't mean he has won the elections. The court says Marcos still has to prove in a manual recount that he is the winner of the vice presidential race. Thus, the SC decided to dismiss his plea. This is to save the resources of the court and to expedite the ruling on the case.
Ang effect niyan is that the integrity and credibility of the automated election system has been upheld by the Supreme Court.
But still Marcos's protest stays and the pilot recount in 3 provinces will push through. The SC has ordered the collection of ballots from Camarines Sur, Iloilo and Negros Oriental. Marcos has chosen the 3 provinces to prove that he was cheated. His appeal to annul the election results in Lanao del Sur, Maguindanao and Basilan will also stay. Marcos claims there were precincts in those provinces where he got 0 votes. His lawyer says they respect the decision and were glad the court also wants to expedite the resolution of the case. Robredo's lawyer, however, is confident Marcos will not be able to gather enough evidence.
We look forward to an early dismissal of the case of Mr. Marcos.
Roderick Mendoza, UNTV, News and Rescue, Manila.
The
The Commission on Elections or COMELEC has approved today the postponement of the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections in Mindanao. The post-suspension is in line with the ongoing armed conflict alongside the martial law declaration in the region. The COMELEC and Bank came up with the decision as a result of their consultations on the issue. In accordance with Section 5 of the Omnibus Election Code, the Commission has the authority to postpone elections in a particular place if there is existing threat of terrorism, act of violence, and circumstances that would compromise a clean and peaceful elections. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, is continuously pushing for the periodic planting of mangrove in the country. For this year, the DENR targets to plant mangrove in the more than 5,000 hectares of swamps, especially in areas that are frequently hit by typhoons. After the onslaught of Typhoon Yolanda, more than 5,000 hectares have been planted with mangroves from 2013 to 2015. The DNR says mangroves along the coastlines help decrease by a big percentage the dangers brought by typhoons, storm surge, or even tsunamis. Mangrove planting is part of the National Greening Program wherein the government spends 50,000 pesos per hectare.
Mangroves provides shelter and protection to the community. In fact, study shows that a kilometer wide of mangrove areas can reduce the tsunamis by 70% when it's come to strength.
The provincial government says the poultry farms in 2 towns in Nueva Ecija covered by the 1-kilometer radius quarantine zone of the Department of Agriculture could not yet resume their operations. Joan Nano explains why.
Poultry farm owners in the towns of Jaén and San Isidro in Nueva Ecija are still having problems recovering from bird flu outbreak. The provincial government says this is because the cleaning and disinfection of the 2 towns have not yet been completed. There will also be a testing process wherein the sentinel birds will be placed within the quarantine within 35 days to determine if there is still bird flu virus in the area. If a problem did not occur, only then can the poultry farm owners begin taking care of fowls and quails. They are hoping that come October, they can finally get back the earnings they lost and resume operations in November. Because of this, farm owners and workers do different work just to financially survive.
Ang bidahan niya meron papasok ng construction kung may mapapasok. Kaya yung iba, magtitiis kung meron pagkakakitaan sa gilid-gilid niya kahit yung mga asawa nila maglabada. Ganun na lang yung salitaan namin sa araw.
The provincial government assures that there is a 2.7 million peso from the Calamity Fund that can be given to displaced poultry farm workers.
Ngayon, ang direksyon ng financial assistance or suporta ng Kapitolyo, parang in the form of cash for work. Ngayon ay coordinated yun sa DOLE. Parang magbibigay kami ng pondo. Ang magiging papel nitong mga farm workers ito is mag-take part sila doon sa disinfection. Sila tapos bibigyan natin yung cash for work parang sa DOLE.
Meanwhile, aside from chicken farms, suppliers and distributors of eggs are also experiencing the effects. They say many of the produced eggs in Luzon go to waste due to the existing ban. They are now forced to lower prices of medium-sized egg to 1 peso and 50 centavos from 4 peso and 50 centavos.
Because it's not moving. It's not because na walang demand. May demand sa South, they cannot move. There's even one story. They let the eggs roll in the cages dire-diretso sa ilalim. Hindi na nila pinupulot kasi bulok na yan. Wala na silang pag-istakan.
Poultry farm owners and egg producers are hoping to get back their losses in their earnings, especially since the holiday season draws near.
Let us assume one cycle of 30 to 35 days. It should normalize after that, hopefully.
The prices of egg might also increase in the holiday season as its production will take 4 months.
Ang worry ko, pagdating ng Christmas, it's always the high season, peak season for eggs. Palaging kulang. So, yung worry mo, it's very valid. Considering also, unlike broilers, you could harvest after 27 days. In layers, you need 20 weeks para talagang commercial production.
John Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Coming up on Y News. Florida governor declares state of emergency as Dominican Republic and neighboring islands brace for Category 4 Hurricane Irma.
Britain celebrate as Kensington Palace announces the coming of the latest addition to the royal family.
And the Brooklyn Edible Insect Expo attracts people with food containing edible insects.
More from Y News after this break.
After bagging medals in the recently concluded Southeast Asian Games in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Zamboangueño athletes now target to participate as well in the Asian Games to be held next year. Victor Cosare tells us why.
The local government of Zamboanga City has given recognition yesterday to the 5 Zamboangueño athletes who won medals in the 2017 Southeast Asian Games in Malaysia. The Zamboangueño athletes who bagged medals are Yumir Felix Marcial, who won gold in boxing, and Cheska Luis Centeno, among others. 29 athletes from Zamboanga were able to participate in the 29th SEA Games. The Filipino athletes say they target to participate as well in the 2018 Asian Games in Indonesia. They admit having to undergo more training before joining in the said games.
Napaka-saya yun kung makapagtayo ako ng gym kasi para mas marami din ako makatulong na mga kabataan na yung landas nila hindi maghiwalay, maging sport-minded sila.
The athletes who bag medals will receive additional incentives, 150,000 pesos for the 3 medalists and 75,000 pesos for the 2 bronze medalists. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Well, I don't fear bugs, I eat them.
Yes, that was the last frame.
What can you say about that?
Well, I guess, there's, again, something for everyone. I think here in the Philippines, delicacy is the mole crickets, camaro.
Would you eat worms?
I haven't tried, but, well, open stuff.
I'd eat worms.
Okay.
Those are the reasons behind the news, September 5, 2017. I am Andrew Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching
Y News.